Folks, one of the largest stories that you haven't heard has been posted by the New York Post by Amir Taheri, and it is absolutely unbelievable what Barack Obama has just done. How you doing, Red?
Good, how are you? No, it's amazing. Nobody's even talking about this.
What exactly happened is that Barack Obama when he went to Iraq, he spoke to the Iraqi foreign minister
As part of his intern field trip to Europe and the Middle East. And
as part of his little field trip, he actually told the foreign minister that he wanted to keep the GIs in Iraq until after he was elected. It's in the New York Post. The title of the article is Obama Tried to Stall GIs Iraq Withdrawal by Amir Taheri. And it is devastating, and nobody is reporting it. Isn't that unbelievable, Red?
It's unbelievable. I mean, you'd think at least on the conservative side or from the... Now, I don't know if the McCain camp has made a response or not. I haven't heard. But this is in clear violation of the Logan Act, which was enacted in 1798. It's not exactly a new law. It's kind of been the way we do things. Only the president can conduct and negotiate with foreign countries and foreign ministers, and Barack Obama decided... Not only was he going to do it, but he was going to undermine his commander-in-chief while doing it.
And what I find so disgusting about this is that, on one hand, he's telling the American people that we got to bring the troops out, and he is fighting.
He's not even being consistent.
He's fighting tooth and nail against success in Iraq, and yet, while fighting against success, he wants to keep the troops there. I mean, that is just absolutely disgusting that somebody would do that. You're putting the troops in harm's way. If you are fighting against their mission, if you are doing everything to prevent them from succeeding, and then you turn around and throw them to the wolves and say, oh, no, you guys stay there, you're either A, lying to your own people, which he is, or you don't care about the troops.
Which I don't think he does. Now, this demonstrates that the writing is on the wall, that Bush has succeeded in turning this thing around. Bush, Cheney, you name it, General Petraeus, they have succeeded in turning this thing around. And the writing is on the wall, and whether or not Obama sees it, the people he listens to are saying, look, this thing is completely turned around. You're going to look like a fool if we go through with the plans that we're talking about. However, if you leave the troops here a little longer, you can be the one who claims victory in this, and I think that's what's going through his head. He is so totally arrogant and full of hubris. He already, at the time when he was talking to the foreign minister, he thought he had this thing wrapped up. All he had to do was stand in front of the Greek columns and distant from heaven, and say a couple platitudes. Now, now he's in a fight, so it makes it more interesting now what his real position is. Does he go and rally his kook fringe base, or does he play to the center and try to cover this up and say, yes, we, sound statesman-like, and we need to keep the troops here? And I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Could you imagine had John McCain gone to Iraq and told them, hey, look, I want to take credit for whatever success we have in Iraq, so keep the troops here until I am elected, and I'm going to take them home with victory just with me, even if we succeed earlier to get the troops out?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been all over the news, front page, 5 stories in every newspaper. But this, of course, the only place that's covering it is the New York Post.
In fact, you wonder if this will start bleeding through, but you think this would be all over the news. Instead, on the news, all I keep hearing is on the formerly Clinton News Network, CNN, they keep, now the Communist News Network, they keep saying Sarah Palin is lying when she says she got rid of that bridge to nowhere, which is them lying, them just repeating the meme over and over and over again that Sarah Palin lies, which is a totally phony story. We're waiting for the Troopergate, if she improperly fired that trooper.
Well, the Troopergate.
This is a real story. This is a real story.
The Troopergate one, I just want to mention real briefly for the people listening who don't really know what it is. Supposedly, the allegations are that Sarah Palin fired, I guess it was a police chief. Basically, they claim that she used her position in an inappropriate way. And the fact of the matter is the guy was a dirty guy. The guy should have been fired.
It's about a trooper who's actually still employed by the state. The trooper never got fired. The guy claims he was fired because he didn't fire the trooper, who is still working for the state.
Right, and that guy was supposed to be Sarah Palin.
Right, that's Sarah Palin's ex-brother-in-law. Now, the guy who was fired, when asked, was he ever told to fire the trooper, said, no, they never told me to fire the trooper. So this is all an assumption of why the guy got fired in the first place.
But even so, the guy tasered a 10-year-old and threatened to kill Sarah Palin's father. I mean, the guy never should have been on the police force to begin with.
And he was caught on the job twice.
Yeah. So the idea that this is a scandal is absurd.
It is a trooper scandal. The trooper was a scumbag.
I hope the guy was fired. But nobody mentions that in the media. The guy was a scumbag, and he should have been fired. End of story. So, I mean, I know John Kerry sat around and watched somebody get tasered. Evidently, Sarah Palin wasn't willing to wait that long. So, I don't understand this idea of these fake scandals of supposedly, she put the plane on eBay, but it wasn't sold by eBay. It was sold by a private guy. Well, who cares? The point was that she wasn't willing to take a private jet and live like a queen up in Alaska. She was going to use the government for the people, and she sold the plane. This idea that the thing wasn't sold on eBay is somehow a scandal is objectively absurd.
It's absurd, and they also fail to point out that her expenditures were 1/6 of that of her predecessor. They make it sound like she got elected and is living high on the hog and writing all kinds of things down as part of her expenditure. She spent 1/6 in the same amount of time less than her predecessor.
I don't get it with the media. I mean, I guess I do get it. You just have to kind of accept after a while that the New York Times and the Washington Post and all the major networks are left-wing in their ideology. But the most annoying thing is they don't come out and say it. I mean, I guess I could kind of accept it if they just said, hey, look, we're left-leaning and everything we say is going to be from the left-leaning slant, and so you could accept it. I mean, I can accept when I go to the Huffington Post, I know everything's going to be left-leaning. I don't feel surprised that, oh, my God, they're biased. Huffington Post is biased. Everyone would be like, yes, we know. But when the major news networks are all coming out and slamming Sarah Palin for stuff that is... Well,
the news networks are taking their scripts from the Daily Kos.
That is what is actually happening.
From the Daily Kos.
That is what is the newest non-story that is coming out, is that the mainstream media networks are getting stories from the blogs, or the news networks who write the newspapers, they're getting the stories from the blogs, and then the news networks are reporting the newspapers. And this was never, these were never stories to begin with. For example, the sex ed issue. If people haven't heard of this, I'm sure you have by now, but Barack Obama supported a bill that was to teach kindergartners about STDs and AIDS and sexual predators.
And the bill's very clear. It says this
and the
specifically.
bill's very, very clear. I read it. I read the whole bill. Most of the people in the media, in fact, all of them, didn't read it. McCain put out an ad saying that Obama wants to teach kids about sex ed in school, comprehensive sex education, kindergartners, before they learn how to read, which if you look at the bill, it's true. But, of course, the media comes out and uses the word, oh, he's a liar, by saying that, well, the bill was mostly about teaching kids about sexual predators. And there are 2 points I want to make about this. Both are very important. The first one is that it said that it was going to teach sex ed for kindergartners in school, so it wasn't lying. Who cares about what the main purpose is? And the other point is what George Will actually said, which was a very simple point. He said, look, since the beginning of time in America, it has been parents' responsibility to teach kids about whether that's worried about sexual predators or anything like that. And the idea that parents can't and only schools can is a debate that we're welcome to have, and let's vote on that issue if that's the issue, if that's what they want to debate on. Because the fact of the matter is that the conservatives would win handily in America on whether or not we should spend kindergartners' time teaching them stuff.
Barry himself said that he said, quote, it wasn't a quote, well, as long as it's age appropriate.
Well, that's what it said in the bill, supposedly. But age appropriate, if you're a lawyer, you understand it. If it says in the bill age appropriate, that's whatever the teacher wants.
That's whatever the hell they want it to mean, right?
So if it says we're teaching about STDs to kindergartners, first of all, I want everyone to literally think about this for a second. How do you describe an STD to a kindergartner? Explain that to them. How do you explain that to a kindergartner in a meaningful way?
Well, as long as it's age appropriate.
Are these kindergartners worried about picking up condoms at the supermarket? Is this something they need to be concerned about, or what is it that they need to be?
They don't have to pick them up at the supermarket because they'll be handing them out in the hallways to the kindergartners.
Yeah, and I think we'll leave it at that.
I'm sure Obama's for that one too.
Have a good night, folks.